Episode 5. The pale light of a winter morning had spread in every direction. The aroma rising from roadside cafes filled the air. James, a broad-shouldered 45-year-old man, sat behind the cafe counter as usual. He was writing some calculations in a register. His rough, hardened fingers slowly moved across the page. At one place, his fingers stopped. There it was written, Daniel. The account showed a debt. James took a deep breath and shook his head as if he had made a firm decision that today he would settle the entire account. Suddenly, someone dropped some notes on the counter with a thud. He looked up in surprise. It was Daniel. "Today I'm clearing the whole account," Daniel said, sliding the notes forward with visible satisfaction. Instead of reacting immediately, James stared at him closely. Compared to the last 2 days, Daniel looked far more cheerful. "Oh, God, which side did the sun rise from today?" James said, sarcastically in amazement. Instead of getting offended, Daniel laughed. "Go ahead, make fun of me. I won't say anything. You stood by me in my bad days." There was a rare warmth in his tone. James was a quick-tempered and principled man, but he also had a generous heart. Even when Daniel had no money, he never stopped him from eating here. The debt was the result of that kindness, and Daniel had paid it back honestly. Yes, he had a short temper, but he was not ungrateful. "Now send a good cup of tea to the table and turn the radio volume up." Daniel ended the conversation and walked away. James watched him for a moment before picking up the money. He had already received a commission from Sophia, and in celebration of the bungalow deal being finalized, Mr. Smith had also given him a decent amount as a thank you. Instead of refusing out of unnecessary politeness, Daniel had gladly accepted the gratitude. Daniel sat at a table. After a while, a steaming cup of tea arrived.
And then came the moment he always waited for. "Greetings to all our listeners from RJ Sophia. Good morning." Sophia's lively voice echoed through the air. The tea sliding down his throat could not give him the comfort that this voice gave his soul. "I hope you are all doing well as always, and I'd also like to apologize for being absent for a few days due to some personal issues." In her calm, gentle style, she began speaking to her unseen listeners. "And now let's move to our first caller of the day. Who's with us?" "This is Lara speaking." "Yes, Lara, tell me, how are you? Any special request or question?" Sophia asked warmly. "No request, but I do have a question." "Go ahead." "One of our senior colleagues says whatever she wants to anyone. Later she says, 'I'm just straightforward. I say whatever is in my heart. I'm not hypocritical. Is that right?" For some reason, the question pricked Daniel's heart. His temper was always close to the surface, too. "No, that's not right at all," Sophia replied calmly. "What good is a pure heart and honest words if they end up breaking someone else's heart?" Daniel felt strangely heavy inside. There's a way to disagree with people. Hurting someone and calling it being straightforward is not honesty, it's bad manners. "Exactly," Laura continued eagerly. "Last week we all went on a picnic, 10 of us. At the last moment, another colleague asked to join, but that senior refused straight away. She said there were already too many people and the food might not be enough. I mean, who says something like that?" She spoke as if seeking approval, like a married woman calling her parents to complain about her in-laws. Sophia couldn't help smiling. "No, that wasn't the right thing to say," she replied. "This happens often. Sometimes we get annoyed when someone else joins us. We think things are already tight, now this person has come too." She paused gently. "But maybe we forget that we are not the ones who give sustenance. God does." Daniel felt as if someone had punched him. That was exactly how he had treated Kevin. "Every person eats from their own destiny," Sophia continued softly.
It's possible that the very person you're annoyed with is actually the reason God is sending blessings your way. Maybe their presence is necessary for you. Therefore, keep your heart big and your words gentle, because death never sends a warning before it comes. Every single word shook Daniel deeply. Daniel arrived at the estate agency. Today, unusually, it was already open. Normally, he came first in the morning and unlocked it himself. Max usually arrived later after work. He stepped inside. Kevin was sitting on a chair, reading the register. He had opened the office today. Hearing footsteps, he looked up. "Hello, Daniel," Kevin greeted warmly, as if nothing had happened.
"Hi," Daniel replied quietly and walked toward the single chair. Even though Kevin had arrived earlier, he had not sat on the chair that belonged to Daniel and Max. "Would you like tea? Should I bring some?" Kevin offered. "No, I already had some," Daniel replied, avoiding eye contact. Seeing Kevin's warm behavior despite everything made Daniel feel even more guilty. Sophia's words were still echoing in his mind. It wasn't the first time Daniel had snapped at someone. He often behaved like that. Later, he sometimes felt a little regret, but apologizing? He had never even thought about it. Yet today, after hearing Sophia and seeing Kevin's attitude, something inside him whispered that he should apologize. "Kevin?" he began. "Yes?" Kevin looked at him attentively. "Where's Max?" Daniel suddenly asked. He already knew the answer. He had simply changed the topic. "He's at the office. He'll come in the evening." Daniel nodded. He couldn't say the words. Apologizing was not part of his personality. It couldn't suddenly become one. He realized something today. Speaking harshly and hurting someone with your tongue is easy, but asking forgiveness with that same tongue is extremely difficult. "Daniel, could you tell me about the clients who have visits scheduled today? I'll follow up with them," Kevin said. "Yes." Daniel immediately agreed. He leaned over the register and marked a few names and numbers with his pen. Then he began explaining them. "Make sure the buyer and seller don't exchange numbers before the deal is finalized. Otherwise, they'll deal directly with each other and we'll get nothing." Kevin nodded carefully, listening to every detail. Compared to yesterday, Daniel's tone was noticeably softer. He couldn't gather the courage to apologize directly. Most of us can't. But when direct apologies feel too hard, we soften our behavior instead. Perhaps that is the easiest kind of apology, changing our attitude. The day slowly reached its peak and drifted toward evening. Sophia stepped outside the bungalow for a walk. Fortunately, nothing unusual had happened here so far. The agent's words had begun to reassure her. Maybe the stories about the bungalow were just rumors. But what exactly were those rumors? What did people say about this place? Only the neighbors could answer that. In truth, she had come outside hoping to meet someone, but knocking on doors to ask such questions felt awkward. She waited, hoping someone might appear. With both hands tucked into her sweater pockets, she slowly walked down the slope. The houses were built far apart from each other. The residents seemed almost unaware of their neighbors. She wondered if this was the strange nature of wealthy neighborhoods. Everyone was busy with their own lives. No one knew what was happening in the house next door. People left their homes in cars with tinted windows and returned the same way. Some probably didn't even recognize their neighbors' faces. Lost in these thoughts, she kept walking. Suddenly, a running child bumped into her. "Johnny, be careful," his mother hurried over. "Say sorry to her," she scolded her 6-year-old son. "Oh no, it's all right," Sophia said gently. The woman began to walk away with the child. Sophia called out to her. They stopped. "Do you live here?" Sophia asked. "Yes." "Why?" "I moved here a few days ago, in bungalow number 396. She said it deliberately. She wanted to see their reaction. "In 396? The woman repeated in shock. "Yes? Why are you so surprised?"
Nothing. She tried to avoid the topic. Is there some problem with that bungalow? Sophia asked directly. You don't know about that bungalow? What don't I know? There's a ghost there, the child suddenly said. Both women looked at him in surprise. The little mind had clearly absorbed stories from home and neighbors. Sorry, we're getting late, the woman said quickly and began walking away with the child. She didn't want to talk about it. Ma'am, please wait, Sophia said, following her. They stopped again. Please tell me everything. I really don't know anything, but I want to. The woman hesitated. Johnny, go home. I'll come in a moment. She sent the child away. His house was nearby. She didn't want to talk about this in front of him. The boy nodded and ran off. That bungalow had been locked for almost 4 or 5 years, she began. Who lived there before, and why did they leave? Sophia asked immediately. Those were the real questions. We usually don't know who lives in which house here, the woman said. People come and go quietly. But one night, the entire area was disturbed when ambulances and police cars arrived at that bungalow. Her voice carried a strange fear, as if the memory of that night had returned. Why did the ambulance and police come? A girl died there. She was burned alive. A chill ran down Sophia's spine. She stood frozen. The girl had set herself on fire, the woman continued. A few days later, the bungalow was locked. But she stopped. But what? Sophia asked. After that, strange stories began to spread. People passing by said they heard a piano playing. Some claimed they saw a shadow in the windows, and some even said they heard someone crying. People believe that the girl's spirit still wanders inside that bungalow. The fear in the woman's voice made Sophia's skin crawl. She couldn't decide whether asking that question had been a good idea or a terrible mistake. After a while, Sophia returned to the bungalow, but she was not the same anymore. When she had stepped outside earlier, her steps had been steady, her curiosity eager. Now she walked slowly, her frightened eyes constantly scanning her surroundings. Was someone there? She remembered reading somewhere, knowledge can sometimes be a curse. Today that felt true. She silently scolded herself again and again. Why had she gone out asking questions? At least before, when she knew nothing, she wasn't this scared. There had only been a vague suspicion. Now evening had turned into night. She was still sitting on the bed, her back against the headboard, her arms wrapped around her knees. Her cautious eyes kept scanning the room again and again. Last night she had slept peacefully on this same bed. Tonight, sleep was nowhere to be found. These are just rumors, the agent's voice echoed in her mind. Her mind tried to comfort her frightened heart. Maybe the agent was right. Maybe they really were just rumors. But what if the rumors were true? Her heart frightened her mind again. All night long, this battle continued between her heart and her mind. She could not sleep peacefully. One thought kept haunting her. Was someone really there? Someone was there, quietly, silently, watching her. To be continued.